Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news this morning. We've got loads of news coming up. We've got Man United linked with some centre-backs. Man United linked with Erling Haaland. And apparently, we have got some advantage to sign in Erling Haaland over maybe last season, over maybe other clubs. We're also going to be looking at the international break coming up. All the players you can check out playing for their international teams tonight. We've got all sorts coming up. Let's start, though, with some centre-backs. And Manchester United are being linked with Pogba Torres. I mean, this comes from 90 minutes, which, you know, the validity of that remains to be seen, but they're running with an exclusive in bold, so it must be true. Manchester United have stepped up their scouting of Sevilla's Jules Koundé and Villarreal's Pau Torres after deciding that the two La Liga stars should be at the top of their centre-back wish list this summer. Now, we kind of know United are after a centre-back. We've been linked with centre-backs, you know, since last summer, essentially. We had Paul Hurst on the Tier 1 Transfer podcast talking about exactly this, Pau Torres being one of United's targets. We've been linked with him for a little while. You see there the value rated around 45 to 50 million. He's one of those players that sort of goes under the radar a little bit because I don't think he doesn't play week in, week out for Spain. I think he does have international caps, but he's not who you think of when you think of Spanish centre-backs. You think of Piqué, you think of Ramos, you think of these sorts of players. But Pau Torres is someone who's on the younger side, but obviously being 24 isn't, some teenager that's never played a game of football in his life. He's building that experience. He's a well-established defender, a well-respected defender in Spain as well, and he's one that's on United's radar. Let's carry on reading this. The radar that these two players are on, Koundé and Torres in particular, also includes the likes of Leicester's Soyuncu and Brighton's Ben White. Now, wouldn't it be funny if we bought Maguire from Leicester and then bought his replacement from Leicester in Soyuncu as well? Scouts have been hard at work with analysing a host of potential targets this season, but they remain enamoured by both Torres and Koundé. And sources have confirmed at 90 minutes that extensive checks are now being carried out on both players. United have made it clear that their priority is to sign one of Koundé or Torres this summer, although with both players attracting intense interest from across Europe, Real Madrid having been linked heavily with both, scouts are continuing to search for alternatives. So Soyuncu is still under consideration, which again would be quite hilarious, wouldn't it? Let me know in the comments what you think of the fact that United might sign back Maguire and then go, Leicester have replaced him with Soyuncu. He's pretty good. All right, let's sign him as well then. Soyuncu is still under consideration, while Braga's David Carmo, Monaco's Benoit Badiashile, and Borussia Dortmund's Manuel Akanji are also on a list of potential targets. Now, Akanji's been rumoured for a couple of weeks now, certainly a week or so, as someone that may well be joining Manchester United or United may well be interested in. But Koundé and Torres remain United's number one targets according to this, and to be honest, according to what we've seen basically for the last couple of months. Now, I was mentioning last night in the Transfers Live, if anyone didn't see it with Jay, make sure you check that out. I was mentioning that, generally speaking, United don't sign a player that sneaks up on you. United don't sign someone and you go, bloody hell, where did that come from? Or, we haven't been linked with him all summer. We haven't been linked with him all year. So these players we're hearing here, these 5 or 6 players, if Manchester United are to sign a centre-back, my prediction would be that it will come from maybe one of these players, because we've been continually linked with Koundé from a multitude of sources. We've been continually linked with Torres. And again, this is coming from 90 minutes. But Paul Hurst from The Times, who's a very well-respected journalist at a very well-respected publication, has said the same thing. United are interested in Pau Torres. Now, this is going to be a list. We've got 5 or 6 names here that we've mentioned. That's probably a list of, maybe half a dozen or 10 names where United are genuinely interested. And of course, we know that there will be a list of 400, 500, 600 players that United will have whittled this down from, as was the case with Bayern Wan-Bissaka from Crystal Palace, and will be the case with every transfer United make. They always start with a gargantuan list of basically every centre-back in Europe between the age of 18 and 34. But my prediction would be, if we are to sign a centre-back, it will be one of the people on this list, because they've been the ones continually linked, because they've been the ones that, these rumours aren't going away. My prediction that would be that it would be one of these players that we do sign if we are set to sign a centre-back. And again, the fee that's been talked around is around 45 to 50 million. Koundé has a £70 million release clause, but that doesn't mean that you have to pay that. If Sevilla accept 50 million for him, then you get him for 50 million. It doesn't have to be 70 million just because his buyout clause is 70 million. So for me, I would say, without getting too excited and without saying this is a done deal, I believe that the chances of United being interested in Pau Torres are very high, and up to the point of being probable or quite likely. If you ask me, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you like the idea of signing Pau Torres? Have any of you seen much of him? Because I'll be honest, whilst I've done some research, I've watched some videos based on United's interest. I don't watch Villarreal every week, and I don't think I should feel ashamed of saying that, to be honest. Let me know in the comments what you think of Pau Torres. Coming up, we're going to be looking at Erling Haaland and United's chances of signing him. And apparently, United have now got a little advantage over maybe some other teams in terms of signing Erling Haaland. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But before that, let's have a little look at international break. Because tonight we've got Manchester United players playing in about 5 different games, which we can check out. As fans, I'm sure we'll keep an eye on all of these. And here's the thing. On Twitter, if one of these players scores, if one of these players does a nice bit of skill or a nice pass, you're seeing the clip on Twitter anyway. But let's have a little look at who's playing tonight. If I can just find it on here. I'll just be a second with that. Turkey versus the Netherlands, obviously that speaks for itself. We've got Donny van de Beek playing in that game. As you can see him on the screen there, looking, I wouldn't say happy, but does he ever look particularly happy at the moment? I think he's, that's a game that you would expect him maybe not to start, because I don't think he has been starting that much for the Netherlands recently, which may be one of the reasons why he's sort of a bit pissed off at Manchester United, if those rumours are to be believed. Obviously, Portugal, Azerbaijan, Bruno Fernandes is the one to watch there. France versus Ukraine. We've got Martial, who's in the squad for France, and of course Paul Pogba as well. And if rumours are to be believed, Hugo Lloris, who's meant to be a target for Manchester United, as well, will be playing in that one. Not that I'm going to be watching that game, seeing if I like Hugo Lloris or not. I think I've seen enough of him. And then Belgium versus Wales. Dan James will be featuring in that one as well. So, check out those games. Check out some Manchester United players in those games. See what's going on. You can see the start times there. You can see the time, the dates that they will be played. Look at that. Look, just a bit of housekeeping for you there. Here's where Man United players are playing tonight. Fantastic. Right, next story then. Moving on to our next story, and we've got Erling Haaland. Let's get into it. Let's get right into Erling Haaland. There's no time like the present, is there? Manchester United might have the advantage in Erling Haaland transfer chase. Now, it's from the MEN, so again, let's go through this and see what's what. Dortmund aren't doing very well this season. Dortmund are in 5th in the Bundesliga. Despite Erling Haaland scoring tons of goals, they aren't even in a Champions League spot, let alone a position to say to Manchester United, we don't need 100 million of your pounds. So that's worth bearing in mind when we think of this whole transfer. I've heard a lot of people saying, well, why would they sell him? Man United aren't going to spend that money. Why would he want to leave? Well, he's playing for a club that never win any trophies, first of all. I think they've won 1 trophy in the last 8 years. And also, he's playing for a team that might not even make the Champions League this season unless they win it. So it's not as though he's at the best club in the world. I know everyone respects Dortmund, and they're a bit of a hipster's choice in terms of who do you support that's not Man United, and I respect some of that because they've had some great players down the last decade or so. But he's not at a winning club. He's not at a club that ever really challenges for the title and haven't done in, like I said, 8 years or so since Klopp won back-to-back titles there. They're a team, I think they've got to 1 Champions League final, a couple of semi-finals, so that's good, but haven't won that either. And I think they've won 1 German Cup in that time since they won those leagues titles as well. So it's not as though this is some team that, every other year you win a Europa League or a Bundesliga or whatever. He's playing for a team that is a selling club, that is designed, and his move to Dortmund was designed to get the most money for him possible whilst playing at Champions League level, but not having the pressure of actually having to win a league title. There was no expectation when he went to Dortmund that they would dethrone Bayern Munich. Maybe the hope was there. Maybe they thought he could be the missing piece. But no one is saying Haaland's been a flop because Dortmund haven't won the league. Whereas if he'd have been at United in the last couple of seasons, people might well have said he's been a flop because United haven't won the league. So the expectations at Dortmund are perfect for a young player like Bellingham, like Sancho, like Haaland, where you can essentially go there and whatever you do is a bonus. For some reason, no one expects them to win the league. For some reason, they can have all of these players, all this talent worth hundreds of millions of pounds that we should all be terrified of trying to bid for, because why would they want to leave Dortmund? And yet, every single season when they fail to produce anything, no one ever questions them and says, surely Dortmund should be better than this. People don't seem to care. So it's a good position for him to be in. But in terms of long term, that's not a structure and that's not a club that can keep hold of these sorts of players, because, first of all, the transfer to Dortmund wasn't designed with them keeping hold of him in mind, because he's got the buyout clause. And second of all, they need the money, because at some point, having all this talent is potential cash that they actually don't have and that they're not making from winning trophies. So the link here is that apparently, according to this article, like I said, one of the reasons why Manchester United will have an advantage over other clubs is United's director of football, John Murtagh, and Darren Fletcher, as well as technical director. Now, it's a bit of a tenuous link, and you sort of think, well, why is that an advantage? Because if he wants to join United, he wants to join United. Well, here's the thing, and here's why I've brought this up, and here's why I want to talk about this article, because if you were John Murtagh and you were Darren Fletcher, and you'd been brought in, and you know the public perception of your position is these players have been brought in to streamline the transfer process. These players have been brought in to make us better at being a winning club, at being a successful club. And your first transfer window is this summer. You are going to want to make a statement. And whether they can get that done, whether they can push that past the Glazers, push that past Woodward, whoever may be fighting against that. If you're John Murtagh, you're sat there thinking, if I have a summer like last summer, I've just come in, we've just told the fans that we now have a coherent vision for the club. We now have a way to buy players and to do things we couldn't do before because of me. And we have another summer like last year where we get a 33-year-old on loan, a backup midfielder, a backup left-back, and two 18-year-old wingers. If we have another summer like that, people will dismiss me from the off. If we end up at the end of this summer with another window like we did last summer, people will say, well, what was the point in bringing those two in? Because we can't sign any new players. We can't continue this chances of winning trophies. I think he's going to want to make a statement. And I think anyone in that position would want to make a statement. And obviously there wouldn't be much bigger statement than Erling Haaland, who unanimously can be agreed upon as is Manchester United's number one target this summer. We've seen Laurie Whitwell say that. We've seen it be said in the Telegraph as well. We've seen it said in the MEN. The people who we speak to behind the scenes at different publications and those sorts of things, people who have a bit more of an in the know, all say Erling Haaland is Manchester United's number one target this summer. And who would be better to bring him in than the new director of football who's trying to prove himself? For me, I think that matters. And I think he knows that John Murtagh will know that first impressions matter. And this is his first impression, a chance to be a chance to sign someone like Haaland. And it's not just like it's up to him to sign Haaland. We know Ollie wants to sign him anyway. So I think those two things together for me increases the chance of him signing. Obviously, there's going to be half a dozen clubs around Europe that want him. But, not being funny, but that narrative sounds very idealistic. Well, of course it does, because it ends up with us having Haaland. I'm not saying it will happen for certain. I'm just saying when you put these things together, I think they spoke about it before when Pogba came in, that Woodward wanted to make a landmark signing. Woodward wanted to show people that, you know what, I know we've had a couple of bad seasons, but Jose Mourinho's coming in. I want to make some big statements for Manchester United. And I think someone like Erling Haaland would be the perfect person to do that. Jadon Sancho is another option where, as you may have noticed with United, we like signing big names. So like Cavani I know he wasn't a huge sign in terms of fee, but he's a big name. Maguire, I know again he was a big signing because of the fee, and he's a well-known name in English football in terms of a centre back. Pogba, Ibrahimovic, Di Maria, Falcao, these players who not all of those signings have worked out. But we know that this board and we know that this ownership likes signing players that will sell shirts. And you think anyone's going to sell shirts like Haaland? Come on. Again, these are all... Let's take away even the football inside. Let's pander to what this board, what the CEO want. They want likes and retweets on Twitter. They want impressions on social media. They want shirt sales. They want to be able to go to sponsors and say, look how many shirts Adidas sold last time. Now give us some more money. Or look how many trucks we sold for Chevrolet. TeamViewer, give us some more money. So, this is the sort of signing that United would love, and especially because he's got a buyout clause, we're not going to be paying 200 million for him, which is what it might well be worth if it was an open market. That buyout clause next summer stunts the potential for his price this year, which I think, our owners and our board will absolutely love. So that's why I'm not going to rule out United signing Haaland, because I think everyone up the ladder at Manchester United, starting from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, wants to sign Erling Haaland. So for me, it's definitely possible. Right, let's move on then to our next story. And we've got an ideal Mata replacement. Now, the phrasing of this, and this is let me just get this up again, sorry. The phrasing of this is very strange, because you talk about an ideal Mata replacement, and you go, sorry, so what's he replacing? A man that has been pushed out of his ideal position onto the right-hand side for the entirety of his Manchester United career. It's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Like, he's a central midfielder there. You see it on the position stat. And we're going to bring him in and play him on the right and then not even really play him in 2 years. Strange way of phrasing it for me, making him a Mata replacement. But, apparently this is a player that we're keen to sign. Pedro Goncalves, obviously, you see that he plays for Sporting Lisbon. A value of around 15 million. I think we're going to end up paying more than that for him, aren't we? He offers a different threat from a wide area. He has acceleration and a change of pace you'd need from a wide player, but he's much more adept at picking the ball up in tight spaces and linking play, which I think is why he's been referenced and compared with Mata there. It's different brand to Rashford and Greenwood and Martial, who like to go at defenders one-on-one. This is good because it's a bit of a breakdown on his playing style. Again, he's a player that we've been linked with a multitude of times over the last couple of months, but this is a little bit of a breakdown on how he plays. So he likes to attack players and bring other players in rather than trying to go one-on-one and go past people. He finds space in the box very well, and he looks to be a player that would add something to United, especially on the right-hand side where, let's be honest, if we don't sign Jadon Sancho, we will be entering another season with no right wingers at Manchester United. And again, he can play central midfield, but he can also play out wide. We need to sign someone on the right. And we've been saying that for 6 years or so now. And maybe finally we'll get one. I'm not sure about that, but he looks to be a good player. Apparently, he does have a £51 million release clause in his contract. But again, you aren't necessarily beholden to that release clause. A team, Sporting Lisbon, could say, we'll sell him for 30 or whatever. It doesn't have to be his release clause just because he has one. It looks as though that they would be looking for that sort of figure. But again, he's someone to watch out for because United must be in the market for a right winger. We knew we wanted Sancho. We knew we wanted Grealish with the potential of playing him out there. We wanted him last January. January 2020, we were after Jack Grealish, and that never materialised. So United are in the market for a central midfielder that likes to drift out wide. And potentially, Pedro Goncalves could be that man. Let me know what you think of Pedro Goncalves. And let me know what you think of all the stories today in the comments. I'll go through the comments a little bit before we go now. For me, it'd be a good sign. And again, you're never quite sure what you're getting from Sporting. You might get Bebe, you might get Bruno Fernandes. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. Let me know what you think of those stories today, because the Haaland one makes a bit of sense to me. And again, you're going to be fighting a lot of people for a signature. Here's the thing. United could, like I said, from every single link in the chain all the way up to the Glazers, could say, yes, Haaland, go get him. He still might go to City, or he still might go to Real Madrid or Bayern Munich, because that's just the way transfers work. Emil Edison TV says, United ain't getting Haaland, mate. Stop kidding yourself. Well, you would have said that about Paul Pogba probably, wouldn't you? And Lukaku and Zlatan and these other players that United did actually sign. I understand why we might be pessimistic, especially after last summer, but let's not pretend United haven't signed world-class, big-name stars in the last 5 years, because we have. And we're not going to sign everyone we're linked with, but we will sign some of the people we're linked with. And hopefully, having been a bit of a barren summer last season, it might be a big one this season. Sakin says, sign Grealish, need that beautiful man. Yeah, I wonder where he'd play now because of Donny coming in. I think if Paul Pogba left, getting Jack Grealish may well go up the list of priorities for United, because for me, he'd be an absolute perfect replacement for Paul Pogba, playing out on that left-hand side of a midfield, drifting into wide areas, supporting Rashford. Imagine a left-hand side of Grealish, Luke Shaw and Rashford. I mean, England we might see that in the Euros this summer. Ben Sorrell says, I say Gonzalez when talking about that fella. I'm not sure if it's Gonçalves, Goncalves. I went with Goncalves because, just pronounce it as you see it until proven otherwise, I would say. CTB says, isn't it pretty much Haaland's choice? He's worth more than his buyout clause. He goes where he wants. He does go where he wants. But when you put in the factors that make a player decide where they want to go, one of them is relationships with the manager that you're playing for. Obviously, he's got a prior relationship with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Another one is the amount of money willing to be paid to the player. And I'm not saying we would pay the most in the world, but United certainly have a track record of giving people a lot of money. So I don't think we'd be really blown out of the water for wages unless maybe Barcelona come in who, you look at some of the amount of money United have paid for players. What was it, 450 grand a week for Sanchez? They're paying more than double that for Lionel Messi, which, if anyone's worth it, he is. But Barcelona are willing to play ridiculous wages for people. Truth Seeker, you says, loving the pessimism on here. I'm not pessimistic. It's the comments that are pessimistic. I think United have got a good chance of signing one or multiple of the people that we've been linked with today. Because, again, we do sign players. It's not like we go through windows and we just don't sign anyone. Generally, especially summer windows, signings do happen and signings will happen. And I think the fact that it was a bit of a slow summer last summer increases the chances of a Sancho or a Haaland or a Pau Torres or someone with a bit more of a European stature than who we were linked with last summer. Obviously, Cavani notwithstanding, but he's in a different position because he's 33 years old. Haaland is not coming to United. There just isn't money in United. I don't know, when you say isn't money in United, I don't know if you mean we haven't got the money to spend on him or there isn't money in it like you're talking about a stock like United aren't worth him going to for his money. I think the one thing there is in Manchester United is money. And you can ask the Glazers' bank account about that because they've taken about $1 billion out in the last 10 years, and that came from somewhere. So there is money in United. It's just whether United are willing to spend it on someone like Erling Haaland. And again, let's not forget, we did spend £89 million on Paul Pogba 4 years ago. And we did spend £80 million on Harry Maguire 2 years ago. And 75 million on Lukaku and 65 on Di Maria and even 50 on Wan-Bissaka, which for a 21-year-old who'd had one season or one breakthrough season at Crystal Palace is a lot of money. United do spend money. We just got to hope it's spent in the right areas. Right, that's going to be all from me today. We're going to be back this afternoon with a new video from Jay, looking at some of these signings, looking at the top 5 defenders that Manchester United should sign. That's going to be a new series coming out. We're going to look at the defenders, then we're going to be looking at the midfielders and attackers that Manchester United should be after this summer. Thank you very much for joining me again. Let me know in the comments the chances you think of these signings happen. Should United go for Pau Torres? Should United go for Goncalves? And obviously, will Erling Haaland join Manchester United? Let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you in a bit.